Today, we are diving back to 1996 to explore a spacefaring RPG gem, Star Ocean. Originally released for the Super Famicom, Star Ocean is one of those gems that didn't get the international love it deserved right away. Developed by Tri-Ace and published by Enix, this spacefaring RPG would go on to shape an entire franchise, even though the first entry didn't make it outside Japan until years later. What makes Star Ocean so captivating is its ambitious blend of traditional fantasy RPG elements with sci-fi storytelling. At a time when many RPGs stuck to medieval settings or straight-up fantasy worlds, Star Ocean dared to explore the stars, bringing in advanced technology, starships, and interplanetary conflict. But the game's innovations didn't stop at its setting. Star Ocean was packed with features that pushed the boundaries of what a 16-bit RPG could achieve. From its real-time battle system, which was a major shift away from turn-based combat, to its branching story paths and private actions that allowed players to interact with party members on a deeper level, this game had layers. Not to mention, it was one of the first titles to use voice acting on the Super Famicom, a feat that gave characters a whole new sense of life and personality. The game's technical achievements and storytelling ambition set it apart, making it an important chapter in the evolution of the JRPG genre. What's even more impressive is the talent behind Star Ocean. Many of the developers had previously worked on Tales of Phantasia, another legendary RPG known for pushing the envelope, and they brought that same level of creativity to Star Ocean, from the lush 2D sprite work to the complex character development system. This game had the polish and attention to detail that made it feel like something truly ahead of its time. The story of Star Ocean starts with a familiar RPG premise, but it quickly veers into new and exciting territory. The game begins on the underdeveloped planet of Roke, where the protagonists live a peaceful medieval-like existence. The main character, Roddick Ference, is a member of the local defense force in his small village of Kratos alongside his friends Millie and Dorn. Their lives take a sharp turn when a mysterious disease begins turning people into stone. While investigating, they meet Ronix J, Kenny, and Ilya Silvestri, members of the Earth Federation who have arrived from space. That's where things take a surprising twist, pushing the narrative from a simple small-town crisis into an intergalactic adventure. Throughout the journey, Star Ocean dives into the personal growth of its characters, particularly Roddick, who transforms from a humble village defender into a hero caught between the fates of entire civilizations. His relationships with the other characters are also explored through the game's unique private actions system. At key points in the story, players can break away from the main narrative to interact with individual party members, unlocking hidden dialogue and deepening the bonds between characters. These personal moments make the stakes of the overarching galactic conflict feel more intimate, as the player's choices can even lead to different endings based on the relationships built throughout the game. At its core, Star Ocean tells a story about the clash of cultures and the ethical dilemmas of technological advancement. It asks big questions about responsibility, power, and the consequences of meddling in the natural progression of a civilization. This mix of classic RPG tropes like the hero's journey and time travel with deeper philosophical themes made Star Ocean's narrative stand out in the RPG landscape of the 1990s. The game constantly balances between grand-scale intergalactic conflict and more personal, character-driven storytelling, making it a standout entry in the genre. When it comes to gameplay, Star Ocean stands out as one of the most innovative RPGs of its era. Released on the Super Famicom, the game pushed the limits of 16-bit hardware, offering players a complex and dynamic system that went beyond the traditional turn-based combat and linear exploration common in RPGs of the time. From its real-time battle system to its skill progression and item creation mechanics, Star Ocean offered a unique experience that kept players deeply engaged. One of the key gameplay features that sets Star Ocean apart is its real-time combat system. Unlike the turn-based combat found in many JRPGs of the 90s, Star Ocean gives players direct control over the characters during battles. As enemies appear on the field, players can move freely in real time, positioning their characters and issuing commands for regular attacks, special moves, or spells. It's a more dynamic and fast-paced approach to RPG combat, where reflexes, strategy, and positioning matter just as much as character stats and equipment. This system allowed battles to feel more immersive and engaging than the more static, menu-driven combat that was common in other RPGs at the time. What makes combat even more compelling is the active role of party members. Players can directly control any character in the party, switching between them on the fly, while the rest are handled by the AI. You can set specific battle strategies for AI-controlled characters, tweaking their behavior to focus on offense, defense, healing, or support. This customization of tactics added a layer of strategic depth, as the way your party acted during battles could greatly affect the outcome. Players who wanted to fine-tune their approach had plenty of options, making each fight feel fresh and giving them more control over how battles played out. Star Ocean also introduced a robust crafting system that was incredibly advanced for its time. Players could collect raw materials during their adventure and use them to forge new items, weapons, and even food. The crafting system was so detailed that certain combinations of materials could lead to rare or even unique items that couldn't be found through normal exploration or shops. This feature encouraged players to experiment, rewarding those who spent time mastering the game's mechanics with powerful equipment and consumables. It wasn't just a side feature, but an integral part of the gameplay loop, giving players a real incentive to dive into crafting and experimentation. With its combination of real-time combat, deep customization, and engaging exploration, Star Ocean offered a gameplay experience that felt far ahead of its time. Its innovative systems laid the groundwork for the franchise's future installments, and even today, it remains a prime example of how to mix traditional RPG elements with fresh, dynamic mechanics. The graphics and music of Star Ocean are two areas where the game truly shines, especially considering the limitations of the Super Famicom hardware. For a game released in 1996, Star Ocean pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the 16-bit console, creating a visually and orally rich experience that drew players into its unique blend of fantasy and sci-fi world. Whether you were gazing at lush pixel art landscapes or listening to the game's atmospheric soundtrack, Star Ocean set itself apart as a technical and artistic marvel of the era. Starting with the graphics, Star Ocean was one of the most visually impressive games on the Super Famicom, thanks in large part to its developers, Tri-Ace, who were veterans from the Tales of Phantasia team. The game features beautifully detailed 2D sprite work that brought its characters and environments to life. The art style blended traditional medieval fantasy with futuristic sci-fi elements, giving the game a unique look that stood out in a market filled with more conventional fantasy RPGs. Towns and dungeons on Roke are intricately detailed, filled with bright colors and expressive character designs that reflect the tone of each location, while the futuristic starships and space stations are sleek and filled with advanced technology, offering a striking contrast to the game's medieval settings. One of the most visually striking elements was the use of Mode 7 technology, a graphical mode that allowed for rotating and scaling backgrounds, giving a pseudo 3D effect. This was used effectively in certain parts of the game, especially when navigating the overworld or during space travel sequences where the camera would zoom in and out to create a sense of depth and movement. For a 16-bit game, these effects were impressive and added a cinematic flair to the exploration, making you feel like you were truly traveling between worlds. Moving on to the music, Star Ocean boasts an outstanding soundtrack composed by Motowai Sakuraba, who would go on to become a legendary composer in the video game industry. Sakuraba's work on Star Ocean sets the tone for the entire game, mixing orchestral arrangements with electronic and rock elements to capture the dual nature of the game's medieval and sci-fi worlds. The music shifts seamlessly between epic, adventurous tunes and more atmospheric, spacey tracks, perfectly complementing the game's narrative as it moves between the grounded life on Roke and the vast reaches of outer space. One of the most unique aspects of the audio design is the inclusion of voice acting, which was a rarity for 16-bit games. Star Ocean was one of the first Super Famicom titles to feature voice acting during battles, with characters calling out their attacks or reacting to damage. While the audio quality was limited by the system's hardware, hearing characters speak during combat was an exciting feature at the time, giving players a deeper connection to the action on screen. In addition to the stellar music and sound design, the game's sound effects also deserve mention. Whether it was the clash of swords, the hum of energy weapons, or the sounds of alien technology, the effects were crisp and immersive, further pulling players into the game's world. In sum, Star Ocean not only pushed the graphical capabilities of the Super Famicom, but also offered one of the most memorable soundtracks of the 16-bit era. Its combination of stunning visuals, expressive characters, and an epic score helped cement it as a classic, and it remains a standout example of how far developers could push the limits of the hardware at the time. The legacy of Star Ocean extends far beyond its initial release on the Super Famicom, impacting not only the future of its own franchise, but also leaving a lasting impression on the RPG genre as a whole. Despite being a Japan-exclusive title for many years, the original Star Ocean was a trailblazer in many ways, pushing technical boundaries and introducing innovative mechanics that would influence RPGs for years to come. Its mix of high fantasy and science fiction, real-time combat, and robust character interaction systems set it apart from its peers, and those elements would form the foundation of a long-running series that continues to this day. Although the original Star Ocean didn't make it to Western audiences until its PlayStation Portable remake in 2008, Star Ocean. First departure, its reputation grew over the years, especially after the success of the later titles in the franchise. The remake brought the original game's story, characters, and mechanics to a whole new generation of players, polishing up the visuals and expanding on the gameplay while staying true to its roots. This re-release allowed many Western gamers to experience the origins of the franchise, finally bridging the gap between the early Japanese-only entry and its international fan base. The success of Star Ocean as a franchise also cannot be understated. Following the original game's release, Star Ocean, the second story hit the PlayStation in 1998 and became a massive success globally. It built upon everything the first game introduced, with deeper characters, a more refined battle system, and an expansive world. From there, the series continued with Star Ocean, till the end of time on the PlayStation 2, Star Ocean, The Last Hope on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and several more entries. Star Ocean series itself remains a cornerstone of Enix's RPG legacy, predating its merger with Squaresoft to form Square Enix. While Square's Final Fantasy series often overshadowed Star Ocean in terms of sheer popularity, the Star Ocean games carved out a loyal fan base thanks to their unique approach to storytelling, combat, and character interaction. Even today, fans look back on the original Star Ocean as a hidden gem that paved the way for a distinctive franchise that continues to explore new frontiers in the RPG genre. In summary, Star Ocean's legacy is one of innovation and lasting impact. Its forward-thinking gameplay mechanics, blending of genres, and technological advancements influenced not only its own series but also the broader RPG landscape. It remains a testament to the creativity and ambition of the developers at Tri-Ace, who took risks with a genre that was still finding its way in the mid-90s, ultimately creating a franchise that continues to evolve and captivate players today. Thank you for joining us. If you like this deep dive into the retro world of Star Ocean, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, keep questing and keep gaming.